Man, I want to be mad, but also like I'm actually excited. It's a very weird place to be in. This is like the best system that's been introduced into the game while being introduced at the worst time along with a second system. We're going to talk about EX transfer and augmentation transfer in today's video and how the two of them actually being introduced at the same time may cause more problems than they actually solve. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this. Yo, what is going on, my fellow weebs? Chrono here, and welcome back to the channel. So, like I mentioned in the intro, we're going to talk about EX Augment as well as Augment transfer path or transfers and how they actually work in this video. And then we're going to follow that up with my concerns, what I'd like to see changed, as well as like just some of, I guess, addressing some of the comments I've seen both on Twitter and in my Discord about some feelings people have. They're a bit mixed that I'm actually going to explain in a way that they don't really make a whole lot of sense as far as what people are thinking and so on and so forth. But to start this video off, a quick disclaimer. First, if you guys caught yesterday's video, you probably noticed that near the second half of that video, I my talking was a little bit weird. I have an old injury from way back in the day where I basically self-impacted my wisdom tooth in the back of my mouth. Um, I was kind of crazy. Don't worry about it. But it also split back then, and when we went to go get it taken out, they weren't able to. They would have had to break it apart to then take it out of my mouth. And apparently, there was a good chance that the anesthesia they would use at the time would actually wear off by the time they would finish. And yeah, I didn't want to really feel gums being torn apart in the back of my mouth, so they just gave me some medication for it and said, "Hey, at some point we'll have to get it taken care of, or your body will take care of it itself." Well, my body opted to take care of it itself in the middle of me recording a video, so half of wisdom tooth that had been stuck back there just decided it was going to come out in the middle of that video and cause a tremendous nerve pain. Good news, it's done. It's no longer a problem. So not going to impact any videos or anything along those lines. I just wanted to mention it here because some of you guys may have noticed it in yesterday's video when I addressed it, and as well as during Skull stream when she was concerned about it because I told her what was going on. So no worries, we're all good to go. Don't worry about it. Also, you're probably wondering, why are you suddenly like blonde? So it is Sonic's birthday month and it is the year of Shadow. So for that occasion, I decided to go with the Super Shadow look. It's not perfect. We're still working on it here and there. And if we happen to get Shadow shoes as a part of the event next week, then cool, we'll update it. But this is my look so far. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Fashion is also important. Though I push gear, fashion is just as important. So let's talk about Augment Transfer and how it actually works, what it does, and then what its concerns are. All right, so Augment Transfer comes in two flavors. We have All Augment Transfer and we have EX Augment Transfer. All Augment Transfer allows you to transfer all of the augments from one piece of gear to the next. EX Augment Transfer allows you to transfer all of the EX augments from one piece of gear to the next, not bothering anything else on that gear, meaning only EX augments are affected. That does mean that even if you have EX augments on a piece of gear and you use all augment transfer, that includes the EX augments along with the transfer. So this is a little confusing for some people when it first got announced because it wasn't really specifically stated how it worked out, but essentially you actually use the augment transfer system to transfer EX augments from a piece of gear that has no EX, or from a piece of gear that has EX augments to a piece of gear that has no EX augments. Because those of you who are astute and pay attention to the wording that I used, you have to have EX augments on a piece of gear to transfer EX augments over to it. And they also mentioned that you can transfer EX augments over to gear that doesn't have them. It can go over to anything, meaning that if you have like an old piece of gear that you used all the time, you can transfer it over to that. So let's use, we'll use something Argenti is good for. It's not good for anything else, it's terrible. So let's say, for example, we want to transfer over our EX augments to this piece of Argenti gear, right? Let's say we're someone who believes that Argenti is the end game. Not, please upgrade past Argenti. Like, it doesn't even cost you money. Literally just use it during the update. This isn't that video. We'll talk about it later. Another video. Sorry. But let's say this is what we're using, right? We want to go ahead and transfer over EX gradual pressing, EX fortitude, and EX tri-shield. And you're probably thinking, what do these things do? Well, watch yesterday's video. I explained them all in some of the combinations. But either way, they're very powerful augments that have an average of 2.5% potency and 2% potency floor. Very, very good. And we want to get them on basically any weapon that we're using. So if I were to transfer this over, it's very important that you listen to the wording. All augments are transferred, including the blank slot, meaning that you have to have a weapon that has at least an equal number or more slots at the base to use another weapon that has EX augments to transfer over to. When you're only using EX augments, as you can see, there is no item needed. However, when you're using regular augments, augmentation transfer pass is needed to do so. And as you can see, since I selected this Argenti, it has 6 slots. All of these are available to use. However, my Wingguard is not just because it's locked, but because it has 7 slots. If I were to go ahead and unlock it, which makes me very uncomfortable, but I'll do so for this video, I'm going to lock it immediately afterwards. If I unlock it, go over to Augment Transfer, go to All Augment Transfer, we go over to this Argenti. Wingguard's not an option because it has 7 slots, not 6. You would have to have the same number of slots or more to use it as a material item. I'm going to now relock it because, again, it makes me very uncomfortable and I'm very concerned, but that's been taken care of. So now we go over to and add augments, but augmentation transfer, all augments we can see whenever we are using just EX augments, nothing. Whenever we're using any augment transfer passes, costs 1. If it includes augment transfers, like it includes EX augments as well as augments, it's going to cost an augment transfer pass. Just kind of how that works. You're curious of how do I get augment transfer passes? Currently in game, they're received via trading in the vouchers, and you get the vouchers is via title rewards. The title reward that we've seen that gives you the vouchers you need is just going into the new zone, the nameless city, and killing as many enemies as possible. I believe right now I'm at the 3,000 mark. And I believe there's like one after 3,000 that's like 6,000 or something like that, but you can get enough of those to trade in for a transfer pass. I'm sure they're going to also release more limited tasks that have them. I'm sure they're also going to start popping up in the event shops, so just keep an eye out for them. But that is the only way you can get a hold of them at this point in time. There will be more ways of getting a hold of them in the future. They've already mentioned that to be the case. So go ahead and farm them up as you need them. That way you have them available for when you're ready to do your transfers. So now you have an understanding of how the augment transfer system works. It's important to keep in mind that it transfers over everything, including the blank slot. So we'll use this Argenti as an example. Go ahead and do a transfer, cost us 10K. Now, if we go to our Argenti, we can see that it now only has 3 out of 6, and it's only the EX augments. It's because it transferred over the blank slots as well. It essentially overwrites the entire weapon. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. But moving on to the EX augments, let's say we want to EX augment transfer. Well, now we can see that Argenti is one of our options because it has EX augments on it. We can also see our Wingguard pops up here because it also has EX augments on it. But what it does is it takes whatever we have on our current weapon, the base, and overwrites it with what we have on our material weapon. Of course, it doesn't include regular augments because it's just EX augment, and we'll transfer that information right over. And to show you guys really quickly, I'm gonna actually do something once. All right, so I put some extra augments on my Argenti, that way you guys can see this happen in real time. So when you use EX augment transfer, so we'll do EX augment transfer, we select this. If we select something, we can see that it shows us what the augments will look like after it's finished, and we'll see that the augments that are on this remain unchanged. Now, this is something that I'm going to test out because I'm actually curious. Now, I'll explain what I did in just a moment to you guys. You guys might actually already see it. I'm kind of covering it, but so we've got our Argenti here that has 3 just dummy augments in it. We're selecting our other weapon over here, which has the EX augments. It shows what it's going to look like afterwards. Let's go ahead and do this. And now we have our Argenti, and you can see the regular augments remained, did not get touched. However, if we go look at our weapon, you can see that the weapon we used as a fodder actually had 2 regular augments on it. Those 2 augments remained. They are also left untouched, meaning that essentially the way EX augment transfer works is it takes the EX augments off of the material weapon and it just shoves them onto the base weapon, overriding what's there, leaving everything else the same. So it kind of gives you an idea of how this works. Essentially, if you want to go ahead and set up a new weapon, you want to go ahead and put the EX augments on it first, then go ahead and augment with what you're looking for. And then as you're transferring to new weapons, it's just going to be an all augment transfer, which will take over your EX augments and your regular augments. You want to make sure that the base item has at least a number of slots that your material item has or less, or your material item has at least a number of slots that your base item has or more, to ensure that you're able to transfer the information over to it. And that's pretty much it. I might have said that. I said that in reverse. The base item has to have more slots than the material item has. The material item has to have less slots or equal to the number of the base item, is what I meant to say there. Sorry about that. We have an idea of how this system works. Now we're going to talk about its problems, and those of the astute of you might have already noticed what the problems actually are. So when we try to go and move EX augments, actually, When we want to add EX augments to our gear, the only way to do so is to wipe out that weapon itself if it doesn't already have EX augments on it. Now, that usually okay, like we're used to resetting our gearing process, every single time we get a new weapon. But the problem with this is that it kind of fights against the whole point of this system existing in the first place. The augment transfer system is supposed to exist to keep you from having to reset the process of gearing every single time a new piece of gear comes out. That's what the exciting point was for this process, is that cool, now we can be excited for a new weapon because we don't have to worry about the whole process of re-augmenting all over again. It's never augmenting that's the problem. Getting a new augment to come out, like that exciting add, that extra augment, it can be expensive, sure, and it's different for every single player, but the part that sucks is having to restart the augmenting situation from scratch, having to build up again, having to re-augment the same stuff you've already augmented beforehand. It absolutely blows. And that process was going to be saved by this. However, because of the introduction of the EX augments, we end up having to reset our augmenting system again. Now, there's some information we don't know just yet. We don't know if the EX augments will always be coming in sets of threes, right? So if they always come in sets of threes, the nice thing will be that we never have to worry about the situation again after we do this once. However, if they ever come in sets of fours, we don't know if we'll have to go ahead and override our augments again, because it's going to require either the same number or more. Like basically, it's going to have the same situation that we have currently with the augments. Do we have to have at least 4 slots to be able to transfer over all 4 augments over to it? Because you can't pick and choose, which I know some people wanted to be able to pick and choose. It would make the process of cherry picking the best augments that much easier, but I can forgive that. I understand the whole RNG situation. Part of loving to play Phantasy Star games in general is something I have to understand is being okay with RNG. Like, it's something that's going to be a part of your entire life when it comes to that game. And this has been the case way back since PSO, like PSO1. So RNG has always been a part of the process. It's something you have to live with. It just exists in some way, shape, or form. In some cases you can thrive in it. In some cases you can get screwed over by it. But this was something that was going to be RNG, and I was okay with that. Searching for your top 3 slots of what you want, or maybe getting a crazy combination of maybe not what you want, but someone else is going to want, and being able to sell it was actually pretty exciting for me personally. However, having to redo your entire set of gear feels kind of bad, and it makes me a lot less excited for units. The problem is actually exacerbated even further by the fact that we just had an augment boost. Like, they literally just gave us an affix boosting event that increases your chance to augment your gear. So you were encouraged to augment your gear. We just had an AC scratch for support. The support scratch that you get for the new capsules, brand new capsules that released, just ended literally when this update came out. So you were just encouraged to augment all of your gear, and now you have to wipe out your weapon to be able to use the new EX augments. I know some of you guys are thinking, well, then just wait, like don't do it, like don't use those augments. They are way better than anything else we have. Even not counting the benefits that you get, the side benefits like the suffix and the prefix, they're 4.5% on average. That's higher than most things that we have access to. And yeah, we can definitely wait, but for a lot of people who don't best in slot augments, it's already better than what they're currently using. It's actually better for them to make a whole new weapon overall. Granted, if you do have a new weapon, don't make it yet. If you're going to make the 11-star, wait till next week. There is an event that's going to make it cheaper for you to upgrade, potential unlock, all that stuff. It's next week. Please wait. But it is actually worth it for a lot of players who were going to take advantage of the augment transfer situation to get some of the augments that were useful. People that had the odd Lux Hal finale, or the odd Gland Gigas Mass Day that stuck, or maybe they had the new Andy capsule and they're the India, whatever it's called, capsule, or Nadia capsule, that they're ready to transfer over, and then of course keep their EX augments. They're not going to be able to do that. And the sad truth is that it's actually going to be better for them to just use the cheap capsules with the new weapon and the EX augments than it will be for them to not. It's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot by not actually participating and just setting up a new weapon overall. And with the event, I would say that, hey, look, it's worth waiting, but with the event we get next week, it's actually even cheaper. It's definitely worth just going ahead and doing it at that point in time. And the part of it that makes it so disappointing is that this could have been a fantastic addition to the actual system overall. Like NGS has been making large strides in a positive direction. Like the new story is fantastic and it's delivered. We're gonna have a reaction to that on the channel. The way the story is actually moving is great. I'm actually really happy, really excited for that. The new zone is really fun to farm. It breaks up fighting and like doing trials and going out and searching for things and like jumping in and out with your friends. Really engaging and actually actively punishes people who are sitting there and doing nothing, right? Like they're not getting any benefit. You getting points doesn't do anything if you don't actually go out and open chests. And the map is so freaking large that standing in one place, you're never going to get anything. So it actively hurts people who aren't participating, right? Like the people who like to just AFK over and over again. Like not only they're going to get reported by people, but they're not getting anything. So it fixes so many issues overall. And it's the start. Like even, I'm not going to give story spoilers, but they mentioned during the story, like this is the beginning of like everything else in that area that it connects to. So we obviously know that they're going to be building upon this. They're going to be adding new zones based on this specifically, and this is the first of many. So a lot of things have been making large strides in the positive direction, and this was again one of those large strides in the positive direction. This done correctly creates a situation where players can slowly build themselves up and not have to restart every single time something comes out. They can get caught up, and hey, maybe they'll fall behind a little bit, but they won't have to restart from scratch every single time. It also rewards players because you'll be able to continue to play and get your Augment transfer tickets and be ready for when that new piece of gear comes out and you get lucky enough to get a hold of it. You can Augment transfer directly to it and you're good to go. Like you're not stuck having to re-augment. Like you're not looking at that price tag looking, okay, it's 100 mil for me to get a new weapon, but then it's also going to cost me like 30, 40, 50 mil for me to re-augment depending on how lucky I am. It takes care of all those situations, and unfortunately in this specific case scenario, it doesn't. For all future cases, it's fine as long as they don't add more EX augments, and they're probably not going to for quite some time. This is probably going to be where we're stuck with 3x augments for quite some time, but future weapons are perfectly fine is the weird part, right? And we could say this comes from a place of greed. Like players are going to immediately say, well, oh, they just want to make more money off the player without any really context for it. But the thing is that it doesn't. That if it did, we would be in a situation where you would want the AC scratch to continue for an extra week or 2 weeks. You would be in a situation where you would want that, you know, that affix thing to not existed at all. It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So even from a perspective of like, oh, well, you want to make more money off the player. Yeah, the SG support scratch is coming around, but the SG support scratch, as much as it's irritating that it costs SG and how much we don't have access to a ton of it, granted, we're getting access to more and they've, again, added more ways for us to get SG. It is like the most cost-effective method of spending on your actual augments. SG is actually more cost-effective than AC. Even taking AC and turning it into SG and using those scratches is more cost-effective than using it as AC scratch or IC scratch pulls. So it's a very weird why this came up the way that it did, and then it makes me not excited for eventually units to have the same situation happen if this doesn't get fixed before then. And the crazy part is I'm going to show you guys how you can fix it really easily. Give us the ability to transfer EX augments over to regular augmented gear, force the use of all three when it requires a transfer, and let us choose the other slots that you fill in out of what we have. You lose 3 augments or 4 augments or whatever, but force it to be you have to use all 3 EX augments. Don't make it so you can use 1 or 2, so you're cherry picking them out. Keep the same system, that's totally fine. I get wanting to make it so it's 3, so it's a bit more RNG, that's totally okay. But give us the ability to choose all 3 and then choose the last few slots we have. Then you can go ahead and have a situation where your weapon is custom set up with your 3x augments, and then the 4 of best augments that you had out of your setup already, you already went through the pain of having to augment in the first place. And now you have a system that everyone can be excited for new weapons and new units when they come out. You don't feel like you're starting over directly from scratch every single time. You don't feel like you just got slapped in the face for actually being preemptive and augmenting and upgrading your gear when you were incentivized to do so. And you don't feel like the dev team seems like they're a bit off by asking you to do so, because it's not even like a situation where they're trying to get you, oh, we got you, we tricked you into having to redo it. There's no benefit to them. to making you do that? Just none. And you can say the benefit is that, oh, well, you just have to AC scratch to then get them set up and then buy the augments. But it's just that that's kind of been the case across the board, really. And if that was the situation, then there was a better way of doing it. You could make a lot more. So I don't know, guys. This is just my take, my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Um, as always, I highly recommend to provide feedback to any systems you guys don't think are great or don't believe in. But remember, there's someone at the other end of that person, that amount of feedback that you're providing. Keep in mind, while yelling at someone will get them to listen to you eventually, imagine someone yelling at you, wanting you to listen to them. It doesn't really go over very well. And I think it's the worst way of dealing with those situations. Maybe you get through them at some point, but at what cost? Some people think it's worth it. I think it's the worst possible situation you can get this to go through. We need to keep everyone together, not having them fight each other, for the best possible case scenario for all of us moving forward. And a lot of this update has been a lot of great moving forward. It's just this one is like moving forward and tripping. You still move forward, you just also get hurt as you do it. Anyway, guys, I'm bad at outros. Take care, my friends. Peace out.